I'm present. I'd like to start the meeting. It's 3 o'clock. Could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to just take a quick roll call of the commission members and reps that are present. Suffolk County,
Myself, Dorian Dale, with my colleague Sarah Lansdale and Andy Freeling.
Town of Brookhaven,
Ed Romaine, supervisor, and Emily Pines, special counsel.
thank you. Town of Southampton,
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. I do expect that Jay will be on.
okay, should we wait then for him?
No, you can proceed.
Okay. Town of Riverhead,
Yvette Aguirre, supervisor, and Dan McCormick, attorney.
thank you. Okay. I just want to note that there is a quorum present to conduct business. I'd like to start off by saying good afternoon to everyone. My name is Judy Jacobson. I'm the Executive Director of the Central Pine Barrens Commission. This is the February 3rd special meeting of the Central Pine Barrens Commission. And for the record, a quorum is present. The meeting is being recorded and it will be also posted on the website, and minutes will also be taken as well. I'd like to get to the item 1 on the agenda, which is public comment. If anyone wishes to provide public comment at this time, please use the raise your hand feature or chat box to indicate your desire to speak.
No hands are raised and no one has phoned in.
Okay, thank you, Angie. Okay, I'd like to go right to item 2 on the agenda, planning and land use, core preservation area. Item A, Quag Wildlife Refuge, core preservation area, compelling public need hardship application on Old Country Road in Quag, involving 1,000 square foot expansion of the Nature Center and the construction of a 1,980 square foot storage building at the refuge. The commission members and representatives should have received a draft resolution to approve the application. Would you like staff to provide an overview on the resolution? And if not, could I get a motion to approve the draft resolution?
Yeah, I'll make that motion to adopt a resolution to issue a compelling public need hardship exemption permit.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Judy,
Excuse me.
typo in that resolution for Quag on the last page that we noted in our final review, where the paragraph before the conclusion paragraph, the word afford should be accommodate. And then the word accommodate should be deleted. We apologize for that.
Okay, that was before the conclusion.
Yeah, the paragraph before conclusion, second line, it reads, Nature Center addition will serve an essential health need for the community and will enable more programming opportunities and accommodate rather than afford a greater number of visitors, which, and the word accommodate should be deleted there. Marty's shaking his head, So the version he had that mistakes, and I know it was the one that was posted on the website. So with that minor change, rather than have come back, I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the commission.
Okay. Can we,
If needed, I'll make a motion to adopt that resolution as amended.
thank you. In the second,
We'll second it once again.
thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 2B, compatible growth area. RD Industrial Compatible Growth Area Development of Regional Significance. It's located on Ramsey Road and Precision Drive in Brookhaven R&D Plaza in Yaphank. It involves a 3-lot subdivision site plan to construct 505,300 square feet of industrial uses on 47.26 acres. Again, the commission members and reps should have received a draft resolution to approve the DRS application.
Make a motion to approve the draft resolution.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second from Dorian.
Mhm.
Okay, all in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Oops. Did someone want to say something? Okay, I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that, did anybody, Supervisor Aguiar, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I'm in favor.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure.
It's okay. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. And all in favor? Any opposed?
Actually, I'd just like to be heard.
This is during, normally you have comment period either at the beginning or at the end of the meeting. Not usually when we're covering the specific items on the agenda. John, do you concur with that?
Absolutely. Right now, we have a motion, a second on the table. We're ready for a vote. And if that vote is taken, then if there's no public other action, there'll be a public comment period.
Okay, so is it okay that I proceed? All right,
Yes.
so we
Yes,
have a
good.
motion, a second, all in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. That brings us to item 3 on under public comment. Dick, did you want to provide comment?
I did. I wanted to express my concern about the manner in which this particular one was handled. Some changes could have been made. It is the town's authority. For example, the material supplied to us from Brian was focused specifically on a couple of bullets, town code changes that have been adopted or had been adopted at that point. We think that can be done. Remember, this is a project of the supervisor and the town of Brookhaven, and they should be as willing to bend a little bit under the circumstances. It was very late in the process that we were informed that this project was moving forward. And I think it would be useful if we could have I guess when Brian did a summary on this past week, he simply indicated that there were 4 items that the administrator, the people who were trying to get this thing approved, had not addressed. And I think that because this is something from the town, because Supervisor Romaine has a really a great record as making sure that every precaution can be taken, I would like to see a review of those dots. Every time we raise them, they say, well, okay, but they would require a change. That would actually be a change in the procedure. I think Mr. Romaine could look at this and say, yeah, there's no reason why we can't adopt that. It's a town decision and we'll make that decision. But I hate to see it move ahead in the speed and the manner in which it was done. We really did not have an opportunity to resolve that at the time. And I do want to thank Brian, because he made it clear that he should have been in touch with the Pine Barren Society before this thing moved down without our input. But under any circumstances, that's moving ahead. But we did see 4 items that dealt with town code changes or improvements, and those could happen. The reason that Brian indicated that they couldn't happen is because they would require an action of the town government. Mr. Romaine has that authority, and I don't think it has to take any much more time, but I think we should be adjusting things. The things that we discovered, even in short term, are things that deserve attention on their own strength. And I would urge the commission to take that hard look to be sure that we're doing all that we can do. It was extremely difficult to collect all of it. As you know, there are a lot of a little minor here and a little minor there, etc. But in the process, that causes time and compromised the quality of our ability to to review the process. And as I said, I think the supervisor might be helpful by saying we're in a position as the town to authorize a look at some of the things that still can be handled properly. So we would urge them to do that. And then as a final item, these are big projects, and we've worked especially with AVR and other organizations that have been responsible. And we have used the process to say, can we improve this? Can we improve that? And that was lost to us on the basis of the way the matter was handled. So I would go back and revisit. Perhaps Julie Hargrave has an observation, or the chairman or chairwoman has something to say about that. It seems to me that this was worth looking at more collectively, and quite frankly, it's about the only thing that any of us have really asked be considered. And if it can be done on the town's term, we think it should be. That's really all. It's just wasn't handled very well.
I'm going to respond by saying, first of all, no one has to even comment on Dick Amper's long and strong involvement in preserving the Pine Barrens and fighting for open space and the environment. He is a tremendous advocate and a tiger. However, on the things that he says, first of all, I don't possess the power. That's a town code. We would have to rewrite our code, and we would have to have a public hearing, and that would.
That's what we're suggesting.
And let me tell you why at this time that may not happen. Let's talk about 3 of the items. The first item says you have to have a 100-foot buffer between the street and an industrial building. I don't think we're going to waive that, because we think our industrial parks should have at least a 100-foot buffer between that and the street. The second one says you should have a 75-foot buffer between any railroad line and an industrial building. I don't think we're going to waive that. And the third one that says that when you have delivery doors for, obviously it's a warehouse, that those delivery doors should be turned away from residential areas. I don't think we're going to waive that, because each of these codes were adopted because they made sense at the time regarding an industrial park. And while this may be an exception to the rule, we don't see it. We think that the code that the town adopted long before I came along was adopted based on solid planning principles. Think about that. If you live next door, you don't want delivery doors facing residential areas. You want them turned from the residential area. If you're developing an industrial park, you don't want an industrial building closer than 100 feet to the road. And if you have a railroad running through it, you want a 75-foot buffer between the railroad and the building. And to suggest otherwise, I would say, would not be wise. And this may be the exception, and there are always exceptions to rules, but we think that this town code and the rules behind it make sense. And I understand the desire to turn buildings and create less fragmented open space, but we think we accomplished the maximum possible with this agenda. I just mentioned 3 items. I could go into other items that we're not looking to change because the rule makes sense.
It would have been useful for you to have arrived at that notion earlier in the process. And at this point, all we're trying to do is get a look at something which the applicant himself says is not our problem. It's not the project's problem. It's just it's late in the game. And the answer is not, it does not have to be fatal or ignored. It was something that was missed because all of the people who have concerns about this and make contributions to improved preservation are usually given that opportunity. In the absence of that, having an opportunity to look at those remaining items that need to be concerned, and especially those that can be addressed simply and for which the town has the authority, to ignore that is just to make a bad process worse. Nobody's trying to kill a project. The people who are doing this project have laid out exactly what is being done and why. And these particular changes were, by their own admission, not made by that process when we could. Again, it would, Mr. Romaine, we would never, ever set up or design a program like this, given an opportunity for the community to come in and say, how about this? How about that?
Dick, what I certainly would invite you to do is anytime this week, next week, is to make an appointment, sit with me and our planning commissioner, Jim Tulo, and our new planning director, who sides from civil service, and sit with us and see what at this late date, if anything, can be done. But there was a rationale for each of those codes when they were adopted that, to me, at least on the face of it, seems to make sense. Because I know if I'm living in a neighborhood, I want a 100-foot buffer between the street line and the industrial building. I know if there's a railroad running through, I want at least a 75-foot buffer between the railroad line and industrial building. And I know if I live next door to this, and there are residential on the south side, that I would not want the delivery doors facing my neighborhood.
Well, I very much appreciate your having a look at this, because it was one of the few things that there was time left in the calendar even to address. And if one addressed that there were this issue and there were no inherent problems that were going to compromise the project in an unfair way, that we would avoid that. But it just seems to me that when the applicant himself enumerates problems that admittedly haven't been resolved, but say they can't do it, they, I think, are ignoring the authority of the towns to take that hard look that was, in our opinion, missed during earlier portions of the review. I don't think it hurts anything if everybody can look at this and say, we would do this way anyway, or we can't do this because of A or B or C. But that hasn't happened, and it makes everything a little less credible, is all I can say. And certainly,
Nick, I certainly welcome you to come in. You're always welcome, and I'll make sure the planning director and the planning commissioner are there, and we can meet and go over that code.
Couldn't help but be useful.
Whenever you wish, we'll set that up. But, you know, just a cursory glance at this, it would seem like those codes exist for what would appear to be reasonable reasons.
And I just don't want to take your time to go through each and every one of these. I think that they're within there's a lot of close stuff going on here, things that barely made or pass muster by very small amounts. And we're always trying to do the best job that we can. And this administration, by the way, has a great record in doing it. But I think we shouldn't be ignoring it because of some procedure, a procedure over which the executive has authority. So
I don't have authority.
We'll
Town
talk.
code would have the authority. I
We-
do
we
not
can-
have sole authority to change town code. I don't have that authority. But come in and we're happy to have conversation.
If you have determined that this cannot be further reviewed, and that is, I'm talking to the entire commission here, to address the concerns that we've raised, and no one really faulted except to say it's late in the day or we've got a deadline to meet. It was bad enough that this was not handled through the not-for-profit world at the beginning, but to have it go right to the end and for us to say, can we look at just a couple things that would make this better? Then that's all that's left for us to do. And if the commission should decide, but we don't want you to have that authority, or we cannot give you that authority, then you're speaking for a population in a set of circumstances that wasn't quite perfect this time around. So I'm looking for future relationships with people in and out of government. And we've always been able to work with government about that. And this is an exception and not a good one. That's all. We will come and see you, but it's clear to me that your mind is made up and that we are not going to remedy anything regardless of the argument being made. And that's a shame. That's sad. That's not a good result. And I think the public walks away from an approval like that as something that wasn't quite cricket. We'll come and see you. I don't think it'll make a damn bit of difference, but we're going to keep trying. And let us know when you're going to change the world before you go out and change it. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments, Dick.
Judy, Dan
Yes,
from
Dan?
Riverhead. I have a question at this point. In fairness to the applicant and the applicant's reps who are obviously here today and listening, and pursuant to our own procedural protocols, we've obviously just approved this application. So if this matter goes obviously before Brookhaven again, and there is any type of change to that site plan, would that necessitate a reapplication to the commission regarding that present application?
Please provide some details which employees.
Are you saying because if they make changes to the application back at the town level, would that application then have to come back to the commission?
Well, right. I just want to be clear in fairness to the applicants who are obviously listening, as well as the reps, as well as our own procedural protocols. Understanding what Supervisor Romaine has said, it does not appear that there's going to be the ability to modify those code provisions regarding this application, but the applicant is entitled to understand what we are doing here today and any ramifications coming from any other sources. So I just want to be clear, in fairness to the entire process, that we're all clear about where we're going at this point.
Excellent, Daniel. Excellent.
Okay. So obviously, if it went back to the town and there were any changes to the project, that would be different from what was in the commission's approval, then the applicant would have to come back to the commission and either have their approval modified depending on the extent of that change.
But that's correct. But if that happens, then we have gone through the process together and we've done what we could do to make sure that we've looked at all sides of this. I think that's worth doing, regardless of what has happened in the past, but I think that that's be useful. And I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell you're going to turn this decision around, but I think we should look at how this went or didn't go, so that we don't have that. I don't think it was a deliberate effort at anybody's fault to say, let's leave out the environmental groups, or let's leave out the Pine Barren Society. They won't like it. That's just that's not what Brookhaven is supposed to be about. And I think that we should go through that process, understand what did happen, didn't happen, can still happen, and what can't. But I just don't think that this seems to be something that wherever we were in the process, it was not a way that we could adjust it to the best interest of the public. We were out of that process, I would argue, deliberately, and we're annoyed about it. But what we did was to come back and say, okay, let's look at what it is that has been done, what looks at what is what are they looking to now do, etc., so that whatever time was left, and I think it was 15 days, that you could say, okay, we still have this problem. Can't we fix it? If we just adjusted this project a little bit, this would be better, because I think at least the items on the four bullet list that has been supplied us in the last 72 hours. I just think that's useful. That's the process, the way it should work. And it didn't work at the beginning, and it ain't working now.
So let me just recap. So we've had a project that went through public hearings at the town and at the commission. Those hearings were noticed, and all the appropriate public notifications were made. It's posted on the commission's website. The commission's deliberated. They've taken a vote. They've determined that this project conforms with the standards and guidelines, which is the review required for this type of project. That vote has been taken. So now we're in a public comment period on a project that has been approved. So I just wanted to, reset the table so everyone knew where we were in the process as of right now.
You have a hand raised.
Hi, Chick Voorhees. So I do want to just thank John for his comments regarding the process. We're here observing, as was noted. I did want to say that since the hearing on the 19th, we did meet with Mr. Amper on the 21st. That was a request of the Pine Barren Society. So 2 days later, we did get together and have a nice discussion. And just a day or two ago, we received some comments from the Pine Barren Society, and we responded. So I do think that Mr. Malazzo's summary of the process is really important. Certainly Mr. Romaine's comments regarding the law and the ability of a supervisor to make those modifications is extremely important to understand. And I'll just indicate that we appreciate the commission's decision to approve the project. We feel we made a strong case and presented a good solid record. And there are reasons why this does make sense. The process was served, and the project ultimately achieved approval. So we appreciate it very much. Mr. Shea and Mr. Ferrajari are here. This is public session after the decision, and I just wanted to at least let you know that we were listening and we do understand the comments, but I think you got it right this time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
No hands are raised and no phone calls in.
Okay. Then that brings us at this point to the end of the agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Look forward to meeting with Dick.